Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to talk about some news which is sad to see, but not really too surprising. It's the M10 Booker once again. If you don't know what the M10 Booker was, it was a quote-unquote light tank that was being developed for the US Armed Forces to be a little bit quicker interaction than stuff like the Abrams if airborne troops and the like needed a bit more fire support. And this vehicle is basically part of a very long line of American vehicles that are seen as light tanks, which were developed, prototyped, kind of nearly put into production in a large way, and then cancelled. That's right, the M10 Booker, along with other vehicles of its ilk, have been cancelled once again by the Americans. And this is something, as I said, if you look at the last 50 years of American light tank development, this is kind of a constant thing that goes on with America, where they prototype a bunch of stuff, things get accepted to be built for production, and then it gets cancelled. It's kind of like a running meme in a lot of military communities. You can even see some of these vehicles when it comes to War Thunder itself. You have stuff like the HSTVL, obviously the RDF-LT, the CCVL, the XM8, even the AGS, and I suppose as an extension, even stuff like the LOSAT kind of fits into this category, where there is just a bunch of these lighter vehicles which are designed for more rapid response, designed to kind of get in and then get out, and then it just falls apart. The M10 Booker had a simple problem, an American problem. It was too fat. Basically, this vehicle was 42 tons, and the general idea of this was supposed to be light, it was supposed to be rapid, it was supposed to be able to be airdropped, it was supposed to be able to just give kind of support to troops on the ground, to give them a bit of fire support, and it can't do that if it's too fat, and at 42 tons, it is too fat. One of the interesting things that is being reported in a lot of different articles is basically about Fort Campbell, which is the home of the 101st Airborne. The M10 Bookers were supposed to be stationed there, and at least for training, and then obviously purposes to try and understand how they were going to fit in to the airborne detachments and divisions. What ended up happening is there are 11 bridges which are at the Fort Campbell, and 8 of them would have not been able to take the weight of the M10 Booker, so therefore it couldn't even get around the base, let alone be dropped from an aircraft, or let alone be able to get into the general setup. So the problem with this, it's just not gonna work. It's as simple as that. But don't worry, dear viewer, because the great thing about projects that don't work in real life and have been rejected or have been proposed and then found to have faults, War Thunder is the home for them. That's why we have stuff like the AGS, that's why we have stuff like the HSTVL, that's why we have stuff like the CCVL. So don't worry. Luckily, when it comes to at least video games, these things can be created and they can be put in even if they don't in real life. And that's where it comes in for War Thunder. I feel like the M10 Booker would be a fantastic fit for the game. It's one of those vehicles that still is quite rapid, it has quite a nice gun on it, and also is pretty modern. It's also a vehicle that you could give a whole host of different ammunition choices to and fill some BR gaps that America has. Because if you actually have a look at the American light vehicles, they have a massive gap between 8.3 and 10.0, which is between the M3 Bradley and the M3A Bradley, and then basically the same gap between it and the HSTVL from 10.0 to 11.7. So bringing in the Booker into one of those areas to be able to fill it would be really nice. One of the things that you see from a lot of other tech trees, especially stuff like the Soviets and also the Germans, is you see a lot of kind of light tanks which are very mobile, either autocannony or pretty powerful guns, you know, stuff like the Radkampfwagen, the Begleitpanzer, the Pumas, and of course things like the 2S38. America should also get more light tanks in its tech tree, and the Booker could easily be one of these. One of the major issues in terms of America is a lot of their fun light tanks are actually event vehicles. The XM8 is super enjoyable to play. The CCVL is also fantastic to play, both having this 5-second wonderful reload, and the AGS is also fun to play since it has the 5-second reload and great mobility, but they're all event vehicles, so the average player can't get access to them. But if they decide to put the M10 Booker into the tech tree, then therefore that can at least give them something to enjoy. There's plenty of space for it as well. They could put it after the M1128, the Striker. They could also, as I said, put it into the light tank line. The one thing I just hope they don't do is I hope that they don't make it a premium vehicle, because that would suck. Luckily, at least when it comes to the American light vehicles, there are other options as well that they could add. One of them being, of course, the Stingray. But with the Thai addition to the Japanese in the form of Air Forces, it wouldn't be surprising if the Stingray, which is one of the main staples of the Thai ground forces, goes to Japan instead of America. So therefore, the M10 Booker would be able to put itself in. Another thing about the Booker, just like a lot of modern vehicles, is it's technically pretty modular. You could always add different stuff to it if you wanted to, and that basically means that you would be able to have different variants of it, whether it be ones which have different ammunition, different armor packages, all of those different things. There's also a bunch of different stuff that was terminated at the same time as the M10 Booker, basically in favor of new kind of drone warfare, which is seen as something that will be more kind of focused on by the Americans with their rapid deployment forces. One of the things that I hope that that means when it comes to War Thunder is that we don't see more drones in the game, because at least when it comes to the attack drones, they're not as good as they used to be. Like, they're nowhere near as good, but when they first came out into the game, they were incredibly annoying to face and really hard to deal with. Nowadays, it's more about just spotting them, and if you can get them destroyed, then generally you're doing a pretty good job. But still, it is not easy to be able to deal with them. So I would prefer if these kind of rejected vehicles kind of got added to the game still, and, you know, we could have a little bit of fun with them. Since this kind of light tank project as well for America has become a meme, there is also a bunch of other vehicles that were kind of proposed or built around the place, which you could also add to the American tech tree. It isn't just the Booker, there's also many other kind of failed projects too. And yeah, that's pretty much is just how it is. I mean, what I would like to ask you guys is, what American vehicles do you want to see from the kind of more modern era? Of course, we've seen some of the more, I suppose, advanced stuff, like the Abrams X, which has all of the fun kind of bells and whistles of a new MBT. But which are the vehicles that maybe are from like the 80s or 90s or 2000s that aren't present in the game, which you would like to see? I know for me, I would love to see some Humvee variants, whether they be the AT Gem ones or even the AA ones. That would be quite fun. As always though, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.